Hi, Stefan here with yet another test, boring test, of the ArgoFet battery isolator 200 amps 3 outputs. And this time I'm going to check if there is any current going through the Energize into the input, energizing these BMSs and this Turbo GX. I assume there is. I mean, they should be supplying, this one should be supplying power here, but will it also supply to one of the other battery banks? I mean, if these battery banks are really different, have really different potential, and I'm going to connect a battery bank with a higher voltage to the Energize, I'm a bit worried that power will be able to flow in from Energize, from the output one to the Energize, and then to the input, and then from the input to the other battery bank, the output 2. So my test right now, I'm supplying 12.8 volts here, and we can read that as 12.7. Sorry about that. We can read that as 12.7 here, and we're reading it as on this one I'm supplying here right now 12.4 volts here, and that is actually read as 12.73 volts, right? So 12.8 volts going here and then losing 0.0 something, and I read that as 12.72, and then I'm measuring on the output 2 12.75 volts here also. So this is correct. It's currently at, when it's applying 12.4 volts into here, it's not doing anything, and it's pulling 0.000 amps. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start. So this is now simulating a battery at 13.4 volts. Whoops, look at that. Now we're pulling amps. So 13.4 volts going into here, and that is also supplied to the Energize. 13.4 volts going here, supplying power here at right now 0.09 amps. I assume that this one is still supplying some of the amps being pulled over there, and here we see that this one is at 12.73. It was at 12.71 previously, so we can see that we have a shared now power supply and power supply through Energize to these. So I'm going to up this to 14.4 instead. 14.4 volts now simulated as a battery here. And now it's starting to happen something. Okay, so 14.4 volts here, being through the Energize. I guess we lose 0.7 volts maybe. And we're reading that 14.4 as 13 point, it should say 7 or something like that. So now we're supplying voltage to these, and that one I guess will not any longer be operational. I think it will shut down soon. It's being pulled 0.4 amps, and that should be about right for these BMSs and that Turbo GX without the screen being used. Let's enable the screen. Didn't show. Okay, never mind. But anyway, so to the important stuff. Is it now still 12.7 here, or is it more? And it's more, it's 13.7. So we're actually now supplying voltage from this battery, 14.4 volts through Energize to the input, which is 13.7 volts. And then that is transferred also into output 2 13.7 volts. And that's really bad news actually, but I guess it may be unavoidable. Okay, well, now I know anyway that the potential between the batteries do matter. It shouldn't be more than 0.7 volts, or I guess it will start charging between the batteries if Energize is in use. It would be really interesting to know if this diode or whatever it is supplying here will be limited in some way, or if it will burn. If this was now a higher amp, no problem at all with 0.4 amps, but if these were battery banks, the amp would be higher. Okay, test complete anyway. Thanks guys, bye bye.